Hey guys, glad to be back. I'm going to talk about some of my evocation experiences, both my first experiences as well as some of the most memorable. Um, well, I remember that when I had just finished building the tools, and I had my first failures, my first failure, which left me devastated. It kind of gave it like I think a week's time before starting to think about a vocation again, and I conducted a few other operations without using psychedelics, namely an evocation of Anael of Venus and Gabriel of the Moon. And I remember that at this stage, I didn't really have like concrete goals for my evocations. I just wanted to see the archangels and to make first contact, to see how just see how stuff went. Um, and when you don't really have a clear goal, it seems your operations are weaker in terms of manifestation. So yeah, it seems the archangels they respond better when you actually have a worthy purpose. But if you just wanna meet them for the first time, I think it would be wise to uh, to leave the warrior angels, Mikhail and Samael, apart for the time being until you have a few experiences under your belt, and then you can proceed to call them, but with a clear purpose in mind, and most importantly with appropriate purification protocols. Okay, so I remember that I conducted an evocation of Anael and another of Gabriel without any psychedelics. Just to remind you, I'm not a very good scryer. However, when I'm using ayahuasca, a strong dosage, or a strong dosage of psilocybin mushrooms, then I'm a pretty good scryer. I'm a damn good scryer. So, this just goes to show that when properly used, and when you don't have any psychiatric issues, psychedelics are very, very effective, and they have like a historical track record of being used to this kind of work. Um, so okay, yeah. I evoked Avriel and Anael, and in both cases, I didn't see anything during the operation, but I just felt that kind of church feeling inside my magical chamber. The holy feeling you get when you go to like really good service, and you kind of feel the spiritual connection, the presence of God. I felt the same thing inside my magical chamber. But, and here's the good part. At that time, when I was starting out, I used to conduct my evocations at the like at the uh, the nocturnal planetary hours, the nightly planetary hours. So I'd wake up at like 2 in the morning or at 3 in the morning, when it was still very dark, and I'd perform an operation, and then I'd go back to sleep. So when I performed the Anael evocation, right before I woke up, to do the evocation. So I'd go to sleep at around 9, 10 p.m. And then I'd wake up, I'd set my alarm clock to 2 p.m., like half an hour, 40 minutes before the the operation was to be conducted. And all my equipment would already be in place. So I just wake up, have a shower, have a quick meditation, quick relaxation, and then proceed with the operation. So when I did that to evoke Anael, um, when I went to sleep before the operation, uh, in that state, when you're lying on the bed and you're not fully awoke, and you're like in that state between wakefulness and sleep, right? Uh, I started to have, my spiritual vision. It just opened, like it just went wide open, and I started seeing rose-colored geometric shapes around me, and it was really crazy. And then I woke up and performed the operation, and I didn't really see anything. I just had, that good, just felt the good vibes in the room, and I went back to sleep. And at the time, I was, I kept questioning myself. I still do, I'm a very skeptical kind of guy. I'm not your typical occultist. I think I don't know, more like have more of a open-minded, scientific kind of mind. Yeah, that's how I label myself. But I'm not very hippie or a very new age kind of guy. If if anyone met me and didn't know about this part of my life, I guess they'd never guess I was into magic and alchemy and that kind of stuff. All right, so when I evoked Gabriel of Luna, the same thing happened. Before I conducted the operation in the early nocturnal hours of the morning at like 2 or 3 p.m. And I went to sleep at about 10. And before the operation, when I was lying in my bed, I just, my spiritual vision, it just opened right up, and I could see some spherical figures, very white, very moon white, just kind of encircling me. And it goes to show that the archangels, they know when you're about to evoke them. So it seems that they're ready. And it's funny. I've read a few articles that there's a theory that your pineal gland produces DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which is the active principle in ayahuasca and other psychedelics. Well, this theory says your pineal gland produces DMT in stages of deep sleep. But what I took it to mean is that these were like my initial operations. So it's like the archangels they knew I wasn't a good scryer, so they were just finding, a suitable and adequate moment to reveal themselves to me, because they knew I wouldn't be able to see them during the evocations proper. So they revealed themselves to me when I was in that receptive state, on the border of sleep. And funny thing is, I recently saw an interview with Brian's wife, Charity, and she said she had like similar experiences to mine. She had visions while she was half asleep. So yeah, it figures it must be something that's quite common, I think. All right, now for I wanted to say something about psychedelics. I think people have a wrong view of these substances because of the media. The media kind of lumps everything together, so ayahuasca and mushrooms are, in the same class as cocaine or, heroin and, nasty stuff like that. And I think it's miscategorization or mislabeling, because these are actually medicines, and even if you try to misuse them, I don't know, if you try like to get drunk and then mix some ayahuasca, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You're gonna you're gonna vomit. You're gonna feel really bad, and you can't. You just can't use these substances to party, because they're not pleasant. It's not, drinking ayahuasca is a chore. The thing tastes horrible. It tastes like um, fermented vomit. Yeah, so you have to force yourself to drink it. And you also have to be very pure. You have to undergo purification before drinking it. Otherwise, all kinds of nasty psychological stuff that you haven't solved is gonna come up to the surface, and you're gonna have a bad experience. You're gonna be stuck in a bad trip, and your spiritual side isn't gonna open up. You're not gonna be able to see the upper dimensions of being. So um, it takes work to use psychedelics well, and they're actually a medicine. They do all kinds of good stuff to you. There are plenty of there's plenty of scientific research when it comes to ayahuasca, and also when it comes to magic mushrooms nowadays. They know that both they stimulate neurogenesis, and they also build new synapses between the neurons. So it actually can make you smarter. And the profile of people who take psychedelics seriously on a regular basis is that they tend to be very inquisitive and very studious. They like to learn new things, and they're kind of a bit they're kind of oddballs as well, because they don't fit any particular stereotype. So it's very different from like people who use heavy drugs, or even those who you smoke marijuana on a regular basis. Of course, you have to. So they're pretty safe as long as you don't have any psychiatric issues. So yeah, that's it. When I started out, I used to have this kind of prejudice against using them because, oh yeah, it's like cheating. I'm like changing my brain chemistry and stuff like that. But the thing is, you're changing your brain and body chemistry all the time. If you squeeze a lemon and you drink the juice, poof, you've just changed your body chemistry. When you have something to eat, you just change your body chemistry. When you do some bouts of deep breathing, you just change your body chemistry. So you're doing that all the time. So I think the key point is that since you're going to be changing your body chemistry every day, you should try to change it according to what you want to do, right? Of course, safely. So yeah, this is like my defense of the responsible and legal use of psychoactives. I use them only for magic. Believe me, I have to, prepare myself to use them because it's never easy and it's never pleasant. All right. Okay, so let me say, tell you a few evocation stories. I'll tell you one evocation of Anael, of Venus, that I conducted last year. So I basically followed just planetary day and hour and waxing moon, right? So for my initial evocations of an archangel, what I do is, let's say I want to evoke Anael, and I've never evoked her before. So I'll have a piece of copper ready for the lemon, right? The spirit lemon. And I'll wake up on a Friday, like just before the sunrise, Friday waxing moon. I'll go to my magical chamber, do a brief prayer, ask for God's support and His permission to call Anael on the next Friday, and I'll start engraving the sigil by hand on the piece of copper. And then when I'm finished, I'll ask for Anael to bless it, right? And then I'll cut out a piece of virgin white linen and wrap the spirit lemon in linen, and I'll keep it locked in a box where I keep all my archangel lemons. I have a chest. I have a wooden chest that I keep in my magical chamber, and that's where I keep all my magical equipment. All right, so from that moment on, my purification process starts. So it's basically a 7-day purification process. Um, I think I've already told you guys about it, how I go about my purification. So it's basically vegetarianism, chastity. I'll cut out all kinds of social media, and I'll limit my computer use, um, and I'll try to go deeper into meditation and prayer, and have some more alone time. So all in all, purification is like pretty boring. Boring. It's really boring. But you kind of have to get outside your comfort zone, and you have to change your usual routine so that you're ready for the operation. Okay, so all right. So I remember I had made preparations so as to have my whole Friday free. I wouldn't have to work. I think it was a holiday when I did that. And when I woke up, I remember there was like a really happy vibe. I live in a cottage just outside the city. It's in the rural area. I picked it just because it's an ideal place for magic and for alchemy. I've just started doing lab work, alchemical lab work. So you guys wish me luck. Um, but yeah, that's why I picked it, and it's a very good place for magic. I've actually felt a huge difference um, as compared to when I used to do ritual in an apartment in the city. Nowadays, my rituals are much more potent. The physical manifestation is, there's just no comparison. If you actually manage to do these rituals in a chamber in like the middle of nature, without many people close, then you're gonna notice more visible results and especially manifestation. So yeah, so I remember I woke up on the Friday day of the ritual. There was a very happy vibe in the air, and when you're a kid and it's like you're invited to one of your friends' birthdays, and you're happy as a kid going to a birthday party. So it was like this kind of vibe. And uh, I woke up, I put all my equipment in place in the chamber. I was going to conduct the evocation in the second Venus hour of the day. So it was around, I think, let me check, 20 past 1 p.m. So I had something to eat at about 10, half past 10. And I remember that like about half past midday, about an hour before the ritual, something really odd happened. Something that never happened again, it's just that time. I live in a 2-story house. It's a pretty big house. And my sleeping room, my room is on the second floor. And my magical room is on the ground floor, right? So I remember that around 40 minutes before I started the ritual, I had already drunk ayahuasca. This hummingbird, he entered my room, my sleeping room on the second floor through the window, and that's very unusual. That never happened before, and it never happened again. And I tried to get the thing out of my room. I got a broom and tried to expel it from my room, but he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave, right? So I said, yeah, never mind. Let's leave him there, and I'll have to go and do the ritual. So when I entered the magical chamber, there, my senses, my spiritual senses were wide open. Everything was ready. The circle was on the floor. I just saw this like rose-colored curtain everywhere in the room. It's like, um, it's funny because Anael never showed herself to me in her traditional green colors, but always in pink, rose-colored tones. So there was like this rose curtain of astral light everywhere in the magical chamber. And I started the invocations, and when I actually called the archangel, the pink color, it only got stronger and stronger and more concentrated, especially in the pedestal area where I directed the angel with the wand. And Anael, she's like the perfect wife or girlfriend. That's how I describe her. She's very gentle. She smells like roses. She mends broken hearts, and it's a very there's definitely a sexual energy involved, but very pure. It's like a very spiritualized kind of love and sex, and I could, I could sense that, you call her if you want to mend a broken heart, or if you want to find someone like a boyfriend or a girlfriend for you who would be suitable for you. And um, yeah, there's definitely sex involved, but it's the kind of, um, it's the kind of love that leads to procreation. It's the kind of sex that will eventually lead to starting a family, and it's something very Jewish and very Christian, very Bible-ish. So if you want to just get laid, she's not you shouldn't call on archangels, because this is a very holy thing. It's she will lead to sex, but it's a spiritualized, goal-oriented, spiritually aligned kind of sexual union. And she also inspires you to take care of plants and small animals. She likes gardens. Well, it was very, very nice experience. And about a week after the ritual, I was sent to work in a nearby town. Sometimes here my job, they send me to work in another place for 1 or 2 weeks. And yeah, I had been there before. And whenever I travel, I try to go to the gym before I go to work. So I find a gym close to the hotel or something. And the last time I had been there, I saw like this really attractive, really hot girl at the gym, and I tried chatting her up, but it didn't really work. She didn't really hook. And this time, 1 week after the ritual, they sent me to the same city, and I saw the same girl, and I chatted her up, and it worked this time. So we ended up going out for a while, and she was ready for a relationship, but I chose not to pursue it. I could have done so, but there were some flaws that I wasn't willing to overlook. So it just goes to show that even Anael, she won't give you perfection. She'll just give you someone who's suitable and who's compatible with you, and but you still have to work on the relationship. It's not something that she won't just find you like a perfect, flawless person, and you have to work on it so that the relationship is successful. It also, she also asks for you to put effort in it. All right, so this was the Anael evocation. Oh, okay. I did a Sakeel evocation at the beginning of 2019 for trade and finances. This was an experiment because I've always wanted to work from the Key of Solomon. I actually see drawing spirits into crystals as a very introductory sort of system. just like the Almadel. It's meant for you to begin to know the archangels and to align yourself with their energies. But the Key of Solomon is a grimoire that is actually much more specifically goal oriented. So you have all the planetary talismans, each for a specific goal, and it's all like the lesser angels, the angels that are under each one of the planetary archangels, right? So what I did was I saw an economic opportunity here in Brazil, and I built a Jupiter pentacle in order to see if I could get Sakeel's lesser angels to help me out. So what I did, I basically built the pentacle for trade and finances. And on a Jupiter day, Jupiter hour, waxing moon, started my purification process, and I conducted a consecration ritual to evoke Sakeel and get him to consecrate the pentacle the next Thursday, which was also a waxing moon, close to full moon. So basically, this is the context of the ritual. Brazil's just coming out of the worst economic recession in the country's history, and a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of my friends were unemployed or in very dire straits. And since I have a government job, I was way more secure. The thing is, I think Jupiter is good for not just money, but to get you to fulfill your dreams. It's everything's in the same package. So I basically work. My job is for money. It's not something I like to do. It's a job I do because it's good money here in Brazil for Brazilian standards, and it's also very stable. I get to travel. I've been all over the country. I've lived pretty much, everywhere. So it has its perks, but it's not something I really like doing. It's not my vocation. I'm grateful that I have it, but I want to do something else. Like I said, Brazil's just coming out of the worst economic recession in history. So I built this pentacle with the following plan in mind. I was to buy stocks at, like specifically picked stocks at their, bottom of the barrel prices. I bought them with blood on the streets, and I was asking for Sakeel's assistance, that I could get my financial situation resolved and set so that I could take some time off from my job and focus on other projects that are more according to what I really like to do, but they won't be lucrative, perhaps in the first 1 or 2 or 3 years. So I'd have to have money from the stock market to support myself. And I did that, right? And it's funny because the vibe of the ritual was very different from, it's always different according to the archangel that you pick. And this time, it felt very Greek, It felt like I was in a Greek temple when I entered my magical chamber. It felt like I was conducting a ritual for Zeus or for Neptune, and there was like this blue greenish vibe in the magical chamber. There was like this blue greenish mist, and at times it seemed like I was at the bottom of the ocean, which, according to grimoire associations, is not very Jupiterian, but that's how it felt like. Felt like I was like in the bottom of the ocean, and at other times it felt like I was floating amongst the clouds in a blue sky, blue sky. There was water, a lot of water a lot of um, there was a lot of flow, a lot of wind as well. Um, and it's funny because Sakeel, I didn't really see a shape, but I saw this greenish blue kind of mist, and uh, and I got this message that you have to, if you want to multiply um your money and have prosperity, you have to keep the money flowing. You have to keep the flow, and you have to be generous as well. So this was basically the my experience, and I asked for Sakeel to consecrate the pentacle, and then I ended the ritual, and it's funny because those things that you've always wanted to do, but you never had the courage because they weren't safe. Maybe they wouldn't work out. Well, Sakeel kind of gives you the liberty to go after, and the incentive to go after these things. So I started, buying stuff for the alchemy lab, and doing a whole bunch of courses I wanted to do that I was hesitant before. And it's been 9 months since this ritual, and so far, my stocks have almost doubled in value. So, you could say this is all a coincidence, and it was bound to happen because I bought, company stocks at their lowest price. But still, these are the facts, and it's up to you guys to decide if this was actually favored by the archangel, or if it's just a coincidence. I'm probably the most skeptical of you guys, but I'm just telling you how it all turned out. Okay, another good one is my Mikhail evocation, and it's funny because I never thought of Mikhail as a difficult one to call upon because the sun in planetary lore isn't actually a warlike planet. It's more about enlightenment and personal enlightenment and success and leadership. So I thought Mikhail would be easy. Right. So first of all, I didn't have like a clear purpose to call him. I just wanted to make an initial contact and ask for him to teach me leadership. So I built the lemon, and I started with my purification process. And I remember, there's one thing I have to tell you guys. It seems that whenever you decide to do a rite, things start happening that, just annoying things start happening in your life that just to take your focus away so that you don't do a proper purification. If you're a guy and if you're single, there's going to be women wanting to go out with you. You're going to have work-related issues like extra stuff to do in your job. Just things to try to, to take your resolve away so that you kind of give up and don't do the ritual. You kind of save it for another date. But once you start the purification process, you got to remain firm, right? So this time when I decided to call Mikhail, I started with vegetarianism and chastity and all that. And I remember I was, bored out of my mind by the end of the week. And, some friends of mine were inviting me to go out on Friday and Thursday. And I was like, no, I can't because I'm busy and stuff. Just giving them excuses. And I was bored out of my mind. And on Saturday night, the day before the ritual, there was like this motorcycle reunion in a nearby town. And I was bored out of my mind. I just had to do something. I just had to get out of the house for a bit, and I decided to go. I'm living in a really small town now. I've been here for over a year now, and they just play like this Brazilian version of country music that's really annoying, and I really hate it. So, whenever I get the chance, I like to listen to classic rock. So I went to this motorcycle reunion, and one thing led to another. I ended up kissing a girl there. I didn't do anything like out of the ordinary, just a couple of kisses, and that's it. But it kind of broke my focus. So I ended up coming home late, and then the next day I woke up later than I expected, but still I got the magical equipment in place, and I went ahead with a ritual. I had taken like a heavy dosage of psilocybin mushrooms. Didn't have any ayahuasca with me, and there was this like brief glimpse of golden light, and it's like I didn't hear a voice. It was through telepathy, but it was like a voice. And Mikhail's voice, it's like 1,000 voices speaking in unison. 1,000 voices speaking the same words. And he was like, how can you call upon me to give you authority if you don't have the willpower to do a proper purification? And you don't deserve to handle the magical tools you've been given. So, just put them away because you don't deserve them. And he was like really stern. I really didn't expect that, right? So what I did was, I put everything away. I apologized. I knelt on the floor, and I prayed and apologized to God, because I really wasn't ready. And, there was just like this really heavy feeling of reproach, of being reprimanded. So, I just lowered my head, and I just said I was sorry and that it wouldn't happen again. So I closed the ritual with a pretty, sour taste in my mouth. But I was very resolute in doing it right the next time. So I waited a month, and I repeated the ritual. This time, my purification went just as I had planned to, and Mikhail's evocation was like the most powerful ritual by far of all of the other archangels. Mikhail, he can be kind of arrogant. He's very demanding. This is my experience with him. But he's also the leader of the seven. He's kind of a spiritual version of He-Man, When I did it right, the whole room was, it was flooded by a white and golden light, and it was like I had the sun inside the room. And Mikhail, getting to succeeding and evoking Mikhail is like, it's like you're King Arthur and you've just pulled Excalibur out of the rock, because you're given these purity tests in the week preceding the ritual, but you have to remain firm. And if you succeed, it's like, yeah, you can pull Excalibur out of the rock, And there's a feeling of being supported by heaven, of being supported by God and by all the angels, And I guess this is what Mikhail means by having leadership, It's that you are very, very much aligned to what God wants, and you're very much obedient to God's will, and you're a good guy. You're what in Kabbalah is called a tzaddikim, or a righteous one. And when you're aligned to God's will, then you also get His support and the support of the heavenly host. So it's a very strong feeling. It's a very strong feeling. And I remember that I was able to go really deep this time. And you know, these archangels, the experience you have with them, it's like you go back to a very pure state. Like do you remember? You guys remember when you were children, and friendship was very pure. Falling in love was very pure. There was a very clear line between right and wrong, as opposed to nowadays where it's all like shades of gray. Um, it's you go, you know, the archangels, they represent concepts that are very pure, and many times it's really hard to apply their teachings in real life. Um, so you know, whenever I evoke them, especially when I evoked Mikhail, and I got back to this pure state, it was very much like being a child again. He brought me to a state that was very natural for me when I had, I don't know, like 6, 7 years old, 8 years old. Um, and, you know, this place, this very pure place that was, that I was used to, that was familiar to me as a child, it's actually some place that, you know, I can see that comes from before this life. So whenever I evoke archangels, I go back to a very pure place that comes from before. It seems it comes from before you guys are born, you know. So if anyone, you know, has any clue on what that might be, you know, just let me know, because I still haven't found out. Uh, so Mikhail, he's like the most powerful. He's when he shows up, the experience, the manifestation is like more powerful and stronger than all of the other 7. But he can also be kind of arrogant and very military-like when you aren't like completely aligned and completely pure. He's the one who's most demanding, I think, because he's the leader of the 7, and he bestows authority and leadership. He also, you know, he also requires a greater responsibility from the magician. This has been my experience. Now, briefly, it's funny because whenever I evoke Raphael, there's like a fresh breeze, the feeling of a fresh breeze sweeping across the magical chamber. It's a physical sensation. And you know, when you're out at night and you look at the full moon and you can feel that night breeze, that night moon breeze, yeah, the same thing happens when you evoke Raphael, but it happens inside a closed chamber. So, you know, go figure. It's a physical sensation. And now I'm going to talk about Raphael. I've summoned him, but without a specific intention, just to get to know him. And he's very, very approachable. He's very sociable. He's my favorite. You know, he's of all the 7 archangels, he's the one I feel most connected to. I actually have to call him because, you know, I'm doing alchemical work now, so I want him to support me, assist me, and guide me on the path of medicinal herbalism and laboratory alchemy, which is, you know, a big passion of mine. And yeah, it's good I'm speaking about him because I know I gotta summon him. But yeah, I've summoned him a couple of times. He always comes very fast, you know. He likes to talk, and when he shows up, I'd say his primary color is purple for me, but it's not just purple. You know when light shines on a piece, on some liquid mercury, and it's like all the colors of the rainbow. So he's like multicolored, with a predominance of purple. And his vibe is like he's like a young man of about 23, 24, very, very intelligent. He's like very optimistic, and he's a problem solver. He likes solving problems and giving solutions. And it seems that nothing is impossible for him. So you might have like a big problem and you're worried out of your mind. And when he shows up, he's like, "Oh, this is like easy. You're gonna make it. We're gonna solve this. Don't worry." So he is very compassionate, and he's also very funny. I remember one time I called him, and just so you know, I don't really talk about magic to many people, not even to my family. My family has a very conventional mindset. So I love my parents, but they're very conventionally minded, and I have like a huge library on the occult and grimoires and alchemy and astrology, like a lot of reprints of old books, and I left these books with them for a long time. I left my library with them. It's like a huge library, like huge for one person. It's like for four book stands, for full book stands. So I left them with my parents, and they were really worried. They were asking me if I was doing that kind of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just reading about it." But yeah, so they're very conventionally minded. So many people in my family, when they learn that I like that kind of stuff, I don't ever speak about it. But when they learn about it, they kind of view me as an oddball, right? So when I called Raphael this time, he's like, "Wow, yeah, I didn't really hear words, but it's like the thoughts he's transferring to you. It's something that all you guys are gonna go through, and you can see that the archangels they communicate through images and through telepathy as well." So he's like, "Wow, do you realize how strange you look wearing all these priestly garments? You really are an oddball, Henrique." And I'm like, "Wow, now that I'm thinking about it, now you got a point." He's like, "Yeah, I'm glad you admit it." So I was like cracking up in the middle of the ritual. So Rafael's like really fun to call. He likes to crack jokes. I think he does that to break the ice and also to smooth things so that your problems, they don't seem as serious as they are, and you can actually get into a more optimistic frame of mind, so you can be receptive to ideas so that you can solve your problem. That's why I think he does that. But he's, out of all the seven, he's my favorite archangel, and he's the one I feel closest to. I always like to, it's been a while since I summoned him last, but it's like he's like your best friend. He's like, if I could give like one title to Mikhail, it would be like the angel of the victory of God, because when he shows up, everything lightens. There's like a huge golden light, and just his presence there, his nature is that of victory. And Raphael is like your best friend archangel, something like that. He seems to be like your best friend. He understands you, and he's like always happy to help you out and to stay close by. So this is like briefly some of my experiences. I hope you guys enjoy it. Just stay strong throughout your initial operations. Even if you fail, which is expected at the beginning, don't lose heart. Keep doing it, and be intelligent about it. Do some troubleshooting to find out what went wrong, and I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot of success. I'm almost 100% sure that I'm the most skeptical guys when it comes to the spiritual world out of everybody. Because even after having all these experiences, I doubt myself all the time. And when I listen to Brian talking, I'm like, yeah, he has like near identical experiences when compared to me, so it must be true. I wasn't hallucinating after all. So I'm pretty skeptical. And so if it worked even for me, I guess it's gonna work for you guys. Um, Brian, I was listening to his videos on the masterclass, and he has some like really deep stuff about the archangels, some very advanced observations. I think I had a lot of aha moments upon listening to his speeches on the archangels. I was like, so that's what was happening. So yeah, it's pretty advanced stuff because I think you guys are gonna be coming back to his videos even years after starting your operations. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm happy I can share these things with people because it's very rare for me to find people who are interested in this and who I can talk to without being seen like as as a crazy guy, as an oddball and stuff. So that's it, guys. I hope you have great success, and I'll see you guys soon.